Hello dear friends, Patrick here, part 4 in the video series doing a book review on Richard Dawkins' book called The Greatest Show on Earth, The Evidence for Evolution. So today we're going to cover chapter 4, which is called Silence and Slow Time. Chapter 4, Silence and Slow Time. And I'm just going to go through, because I've already finished reading the book, and find the notes that I took. So right off the bat, in the beginning of this chapter, he says that if the history deniers who doubt the fact of evolution are ignorant of biology, those who think the world began less than 10,000 years ago are worse than ignorant. They are deluded to the point of perversity. So Dawkins is not writing this book to present the evidence for evolution. Remember that. Dawkins is writing this book to attack, to belittle, and to make fun of those that believe in a young Earth, right? Somebody that might think that the Earth is less than 10,000 years ago. He says that they're deluded to the point of perversity. That's how I would describe some of Dawkins' assumptions, that he's deluded to the point of perversity. So you can see that's how he introduces the chapter and tells you what his focus is on. And he likes to present little clever footnotes. I was making a note on his footnotes. And so he's talking here in this chapter about how it is possible to measure time through different methods. Through different methods, like you're familiar with the method of tree rings, dating through seeing the different rings in a tree when you cut a tree crossways, and the different concentric rings can tell you the age of the tree, and then they can compare one tree to another tree that's older and kind of extrapolate that out further and further back. And the history from trees can take them quite far back when they can see when a fire occurred and so on. And he's talking about it's described as being called Dendrochronology, tracking time through using tree rings. And then he moves on to talking about radioactive clocks. So that's like one type of clock, and another type of clock is these radioactive clocks. And he's got some mildly interesting stuff about Niels Bohr on page 92, and some relatively worthwhile reading, I guess you could say, as far as studying a little bit about how they date things using radioactivity. But it's interesting to note on page 97, he says, only igneous rocks provide radioactive clocks, but fossils are almost never found in igneous rock. Interesting that he would admit that. Sedimentary rocks, unfortunately, cannot be dated by radioactivity. Presumably, there's that word again, presumably the individual particles of silt or sand that go to make sedimentary rocks contain potassium-40 and other radioactive isotopes, therefore could be said to contain radioactive clocks, but unfortunately these clocks are no use to us because they are not properly zeroed, or are zeroed at different times from each other. And this would be a drawback that would apply to any type of radioactive dating, in my opinion. But let's leave that and let him have his say with all this radioactive dating stuff that goes on and on ad nauseum. Now, I want to show you something interesting here in this chapter. It talks about all the different isotopes and what they decay to and what their half-lives are. How accurate that is? But it's interesting. I mean, it is mildly interesting about how they do carbon dating. But carbon dating, even after reading this chapter, you're going to be left with the idea that carbon dating is not an exact, clock, right? The half-life of rubidium-87 is 49 billion years. Well, what if it's 48 billion? What if it's 51 billion? And on and on and on. And then all the way down to carbon-14, which decays to nitrogen-14, the half-life is 5,730 years. It's not 5,731, 5,730. Yeah, okay. So it's a lot of verbiage for talking about dating, and it does nothing to solidify any type of, accuracy in my mind as a reader, from all these different radioactive isotope methods. And I know that it probably, it's a very short chapter. It's only, how many pages is this? It goes from page 86 to page 107, let's say. So 14 and 7 is 21. So it's only a 20-page chapter, but you walk away from it without any real confidence in the radioactive dating method, in my opinion, right? In fact, it even admits that you can only, it says here, again, I just want to repeat that on page 97, only igneous rocks. Igneous rocks are rocks that are made from volcanic materials, right? So it was kind of like a liquid at one time, and then it cools, and then you get igneous rock. So it says only igneous rocks provide radioactive clocks, but fossils are almost never found in igneous rock. Fossils are formed in sedimentary rocks like limestone and sandstone, which are not solidified lava. That's what igneous rocks are. Igneous rocks are solidified lava, right? But fossils are found in layers of mud or silt or sand, gradually laid down on the floor of a sea or a lake or estuary, and then it becomes compacted and then hardens as rock. That's what sedimentary rock is, right? They're found trapped in the mud, and they have a chance of fossilizing. So what's the point then of radioactive clocks even be part of the conversation? It says only igneous rocks provide radioactive clocks. And all this time, we've heard so many times, carbon-14 dating, carbon-14 dating over and over and over again. And on this chart, where they get into the billions, they've got carbon-14 is the most recent type of dating. And then it goes to aluminum-26, iodine-129, samarium, all the way up to rubidium, which, supposedly would be able to date things into the billions of years, because the chart is called radioactive clocks. That's what the chart is called. And so it refutes itself. The argument for dating using radioactive isotopes refutes itself if there are no fossils to measure the time of how old those fossils are. You can't say, oh, this fossil was measured to such and such a date, because there are no fossils in solidified lava. If there's lava and a corpse died in, it would be burnt to, obviously there'd be nothing left of it. There would be no trapped body to solidify into a fossil. And so that's why there's no fossils in igneous rocks. That makes sense, right? There's a reason why there's no fossils in solidified lava. But why is it that we've always heard these stories about, this is the carbon-14 dated to such and such. This was carbon dated to 40. Maybe that was done for specific things that they found, like maybe some artifacts in the recent past, but not anything to do with fossils. So that's something to consider, that on page 97, something that I didn't know, that I'm glad I found out, which confirms my own, common sense beliefs, that radioactive dating has nothing to do with fossils. It may have something to do with specific artifacts over time that have been preserved, like maybe dating an old stone tool or an arrowhead or something like that. But as far as animal remains, there's nothing. There is no dating for that. So that's it for chapter 4. I'll wrap that up in time to meet the 10-minute maximum here that I'm trying to stay within, and then we'll move on to the next chapter 5. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. I love you. God loves you. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Take care of yourself. Bye now.